Hello everybody, Jake here and welcome to the hobby. It is June 2026 and we are back with another episode of What's Hot and What's Not, and it is an extremely hot month, especially if you live in the US. It's like super uncomfortably hot, but there are a bunch of other really cool Pokemon card products that are climbing. Some of the ones that I want to talk about is obviously anything related to the anniversary of Pokemon. We got ourselves the Generations ETB, making a very strong and steady climb. This box is basically climbing by $200 month over month, very consistently, going for around $2,200 in March and going for $3,200 in June. We also have ourselves the Celebrations UPC. For Celebrations, the ETB is climbing a little bit slower than the UPC, just because the UPC is just considered a far better product. There was a point in time when this UPC was going for like $800, when the 151 Mew UPC was going for $900, which makes no sense. This UPC should always be more expensive than the 151 Mew UPC, and is making a very strong, solid climb as well, climbing for basically around $100 a month right now. We also got ourselves the 151 UPC. Like I said, there was a point in time when this box was going for more than the Celebrations one, which makes no sense. And that happened right here, March. In March 16th, this box was going for $900, and the Celebrations UPC was going for also like right around $900. This box should always be like $300 more expensive. So it price corrected, which makes total sense. The other sealed product that's been climbing quite a bit, very steadily and consistently, is the Japan Post stamp box. Very hot though, very consistent climber. You can see it was going for right around $2,500 in April and going for $4,000 in June. So it's like what, a $400, $500 climb month over month, which is crazy. But this is a very solid box. Comes with a bunch of really cool Japanese stamps, as well as the beauty looking back Pikachu and the swooping Cramorant. Some of the cards that have been climbing are the ones that are related to the Celebration set coming out for the 30th anniversary, including the Pikachu and Zekrom Tag Team GX. It's very targeted though. It's not like every card from the Classic Collection is climbing. It's very targeted, and the one that is the most egregious is by far the Pikachu and Zekrom Tag Team GX. A $100, 251% price climb for the raw copies. Not the rated copies, the raw copies climb by 250%. If you're a vendor and you just sold this card for $40, you're thinking, son of a... because you're out $100 on every copy. That's crazy. The graded copies also saw massive spikes. PSA 10s were going for roughly $350. And then it shot up like a rocket to $900, also like a solid 200 to 300% price jump. Extremely egregious, like very aggressive. Just because this card is making a return in the Classic Collection does not mean it is going to see like a massive pump because of it being in the Classic Collection. There may be some parents that are confused, like maybe, but I don't think that you're going to see a massive pump. This is just pure market speculation. These are people that are just predicting things that are going to happen and making the purchases ahead of time. Although if you're someone and you just sold this card for $370, you might cancel your order because you're like, sorry, I don't have it in stock anymore, which I think is also kind of lame. We also got the Greninja break card, seeing a very solid climb. It's probably going to be the most popular break card to collect for quite a while, going for roughly $600 in March and going for $1,000 as soon as the announcement came out. Another really cool card. The Mew VMAX less so, but you can see like the people in the market, they're just going crazy for these things, going for like $100 in May, and then as soon as the announcement came out, it's going for almost $300 in a PSA 10, which is crazy climb, all because of the Classic Collection announcement. So how much does that really matter? We also got ourselves the 25th anniversary Japan version of the base set Charizard. This one is seeing a very solid climb, mainly because of the announcement. Again, like people have been speculating. It was going for roughly $500 just late last year, and now it's going for well over $1,000. And a big reason why it's seeing this really solid climb is obviously with the announcement, but because I will actually say this is a very different Charizard. It's very gaudy, like extremely sparkly, like a super shiny card, but it presents really well. Like if you're looking for a base set Charizard that has like display ability, this one is gonna stand out in your collection because it shines like a jewel. So a really cool card. Also, we got ourselves the Bubble Mew in the news. This card has been probably the most talked about card in the news, so it is incredibly hot, and you can see its climb as well. In March, this card was going for $566 raw, and now in June it's going for $900. It might be touching $1,000 before the end of June, which is crazy, but this is an incredibly popular card. 2 copies of the black labels sold for roughly $240, both to the same seller. Both to the same buyer. The same buyer bought both copies of the Black Label Bubble Mew for basically $250K with like taxes and buyer premium and all of that. So they paid for both copies. So is this card really worth $250K? It's based on that one person's desire for these cards. So you can consider that a serious pump. We got ourselves the PSA 10 making really strong climbs too. At one point in December, this card was going for $1,300. Now it's going for well over $3,000. Like, that is wild climb. Another card that's climbing for very obvious reasons is the Darkrai V-Star, because Darkrai is making a solid return inside of Pitch Black, and it is a super cool card. A very cool card that I'm glad to see some people finally appreciating. Going for roughly $50 in April, and now with Pitch Black getting really close to release, it's going for over $100. A lot of preemptive price in speculation. Then it went up to like $400, and right now it's like floating around $375. Still a very strong climb. Another card that's making the return is the Drowsy card, which we talked about a long time ago. Last year, this was like an early market manipulation card. We got ourselves the Tomokozu Komiya Drowsy, if you guys remember this. This card was pumped to high heaven at one point, and yeah, it's seeing that massive climb again. Now it's just living into that world of being a legend. You know, it's a GOAT now, just in that kind of series of great looking art, very similar to the Magikarp. Great design, like very somber. Like, you gotta like it, because this is a very interesting kind of art piece, like some schizophrenia kind of art. Very cool though. Raw copies are touching $70, and right now PSA 10s are reaching $900. So a $900 PSA 10 for an illustration rare puts it in the upper 1%, like it is a 1%er. We got ourselves the Rayquaza V, which this card was sleeping for the longest time, and you can see it was just like a flat line, but then I think people are really seeing that return of Rayquaza and going to some of the underrated cards, and even though this card is very expensive, it is still considered quite a bit underrated compared to the Rayquaza V Max, going for roughly $420 in June right now, and the real climb is really in that like graded version of this card, going for roughly $700 in March and going for $1,700 in May to June, which is a massive climb. That is basically going from it's more than doubled in value, really, more like 1.5 times. That's really strong. We got ourselves the Giratina V-Star from Crown Zenith. This card's been talked about a lot because it pairs very well with the Darkrai from Pitch Black, as some people say. Like, again, very speculative, but it is seeing that climb again, going for $240 in April and going for upwards of $375 in June. And the real crazy thing is into those, again, like the PSA copies. In February and March, they were going for roughly $400, and then right after March, it started climbing and just never stopped. And now it's going for like $750 in a PSA 10. $400 in March, $750 in June. Not a bad climb. The final card in the hot side is the Red's Pikachu, a really strong, just consistent climber. This card just like slowly just climbs forever and ever. And it is mainly because it is just a super strong card. At one point, this Red's Pikachu was going for $5 raw. I remember when I joined the hobby, the Red's Pikachu was a $5 raw card, and you could get hundreds, and I literally mean hundreds of copies of this card if you wanted to, because it was that plentiful. The market's dried up on it. They're all inside of people's collection now, so you don't see as many copies floating around. But yeah, especially the PSA 10 copies, those have been climbing. There was a point in time, guys, the PSA 10 copies are going for roughly $1,500 to $1,600. There was a point in time when these PSA 10 copies were going for $30 to $40. You can buy as many Red's Pikachu PSA 10s as you want for $30 to $40 all day. and now they're going for $1,500 to $1,600. Now that's a climb, but this is a goat. Like, very, very straightforward. Like, this is a goat art piece. Like, if you ever saw this piece, you're like, oh yeah, no brainer. Of course, that's a great looking card. But yeah, that's how the market goes when the supply dries out and the market just climbs. Moving on to what's not hot, we got ourselves some very interesting stuff to talk about. I always prefer talking about the what's not hot, just because these can be very interesting in that you have to sort of speculate on why they're not hot. We got ourselves the Sun and Moon base set booster box. A lot of people talk about booster boxes like they're a gold mine, they're going to climb forever and ever and ever, and that's not really the case. We got ourselves the Sun and Moon base booster box, $900. Destined Rivals booster boxes are $600, you know? For the same price as 3 Destined Rivals booster boxes, you can get yourself 2 Sun and Moon base booster box. And this is a way older booster box than Destined Rivals, but it's not climbing. It's like a flat line. Why? Because people don't care about it. People have moved on to other things. And that's just part of the hobby, is that a lot of sets get forgotten. This will probably continue to climb throughout its life. It's not going to like be dead, but it's going to be a much lower climb. I was talking about this, is that the average price on Pokemon card products and cards went up 116% year over year, which means if you're not meeting that 116% climb year over year, you're below average. And this is way below average. Like, this basically flatline. It went for $800 last year, and this is basically a flatline. It just didn't climb at all. And so that's what I mean when I say the market is just very interesting. Some stuff will climb, and they're climbing quite rapidly, and it's stuff that people have eyeballs on. No one's talking about the Sun and Moon base booster box, which is why it's not hot. Moving on to another product that is not hot, or another card that's not hot, I guess. We got ourselves the Mega Gardevoir EX, which is a part of the Classic Collection. Remember how I talked about that Pikachu and Zekrom climbing like crazy? Well, this Mega Gardevoir EX is a super cool card. Not only is it not climbing, it's actually dropping in price. The funny thing is that no one is market manipulating this. No one's speculating that, oh my goodness, because this card is going to make a return in the Classic Collection, people are going to buy more copies of it or something like that. So it's very interesting what gets picked. Can we market manipulate Buzzwole? Guys, help me pump this card. Guys, Buzzwole GX making a return in Classic Collection. It's the best Pokemon. It has to climb. But yeah, like, it didn't really see any climb, and I don't expect it to. It's a $2, $3 card, and it's remained that way for a year. So again, just because something is inside of the Classic Collection doesn't mean it actually climbed. Let's talk about some other tag team cards. We got ourselves the Reshiram and Charizard Tag Team GX. This card is really, really cool. People talk about how tag teams are climbing. This card's not really climbing. Raw copies still going for $40 to $50 for a whole entire year. The PSA 10 copies are climbing a little bit, but then every PSA 10 copy is climbing, so it's basically just meeting the market. We also got ourselves the base set Charizard, which is technically, I would call, a not hot card. This card is a card that will very occasionally be picked up, especially by newer collectors. If you're someone new that's joining the hobby, you end up sort of gravitating towards this card as like one of your first purchase, because you just want an OG. So this is kind of like an OG pickup for newer collectors, where they say like, yo, I just want to get like the first card that was like really impactful in the collecting space, and it would be base set Charizard. Going for roughly $450 for most of last year, and maybe it's like a little bit more expensive over the past like 2 or 3 months. It's really stayed very, very consistent over the time, and it's going to remain that way. Again, with Dark Charizard, not really seeing that strong climb. Some people say like, oh, it is climbing, Jake. It is absolutely climbing, but when a card is climbing by like 40% and the whole entire market is climbing by over 100%, that's still, I would say, like way lagging behind. Talking about some other cards, we got ourselves the Tyrant Mega Evolution promo card from the most recent set, and you'll see that it's not really climbing. In fact, it's actually one of the weaker ones. And I am calling this out because pretty much every single other ETB promo card is roughly going for $10 to $12. We got ourselves like Zekrom, the Eevee from Prismatic Evolution, the Alakazam, the Riolu, like all of these recent ETB promo cards, they're quite expensive. The Tyrant is not one of those, so I would say it's a not hot promo card if you're thinking about it that way. And I also want to talk about some of the old chase cards. We got ourselves the Pikachu VMAX from Vivid Voltage. This is the top chase card from Vivid Voltage, and you can really see that it's not climbing at all. In fact, if you bought this Pikachu VMAX from Vivid Voltage 5 years ago raw, you might have paid more for it at that time than now. Like, there was a point in time when when Vivid Voltage came out, this Pikachu VMAX was going for $400, $500 raw, and people were buying them for $400, $500. And after 5 years, they've lost half of their value. So not everything climbs in the hobby. And you might say, well, that's just a secret rare, hyper rare, rainbow rare card, Jake. Of course it wouldn't climb. We got other cool cards, like we got ourselves the Alt Art Blaziken. Blaziken is a fan favorite starter. It's probably like the most popular starter from its generation, although it's part of a really strong generation. But we got ourselves the Blaziken VMAX. Extremely, really solid art piece. You have to sort of like it though. But you can see, for a whole entire year, it's flatline. There was a point in time, like I said, when Chilling Reign came out, this Blaziken VMAX was already a super expensive card. And it's not really seeing that climb year over year. If you bought this card June of last year, you basically paid $370 and you held it for a year and it didn't climb at all. So it's currently in the market. There's some places that are just not being looked at. It's not that these cards aren't cool. It's that people's eyeballs, they can only focus on so many things at a given time. And with so many other cool stuff, like with Ascended Heroes, Prismatic Evolution, Celebrations coming out in a couple of months, their eyeballs are just focused on other areas. And the Blaziken VMAX is not currently in people's view. And that's just how the not hot cards are currently looked at. A lot of cards that are not hot are cards that are not in people's view. Some stuff like the Mega Gardevoir EX, you might say, hey, like this should be in people's views right now. But that's the interesting thing. The market speculation is an absolute gravy train where it's picking up people along the way, but they all have to target one card. You can't spread the market speculation across 30 cards in terms of the classic collection. You got to target it, and people target it. The Tag Team GX cards. Once a couple of copies are bought and everyone sees that, they jump in the train. They're like, oh yeah, I'll pick up a couple of copies of the Tag Team GX Pikachu. And more and more and more people pick it up, and then its price spikes. But this Mega Gardevoir EX, no one picked it up. No one besides me is picking up the Buzzwole. So these cards are not climbing. Very interesting state in the market where it seems like horde mentality is the focus, is we all buy the same card at the same time and let's move it together kind of mentality. So let me know what your thoughts are. Thank you so much for watching this episode of What's Hot and What's Not, and I'll see you guys next time.